From Significant, this is Crack It in an Hour.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. I'm Simon.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Roman.
And for those of you, most of you who already know, it is one problem once a week, 1 hour to crack it. I'm drinking a beer this week.
Woo!
I don't want to give away the name until they sponsor the pod, but it's a delicious
like
beer.
it's not a recognizable bottle.
Absolutely not.
Thank you, completely unrecognizable, wide-shaped Mexican beer company. Anyways, Roman, you want to start the clock?
Let's go.
Okay, and then Jesse, you have the problem to crack, and Roman and I have not heard it before, so let's get into it.
Okay, I haven't been this excited about one of my own topics in a while.
Whoa.
I know. I think this is going to be a really fascinating society, cultural, philosophical debate.
Great.
I don't know if we'll crack anything. I guess we'll find out. But this came to me actually earlier this week because someone here in this group likes to often joke, sort of not joke, but somebody here likes to call me bougie.
I mean, you're bougie.
It's Roman. He calls me bougie. Okay. And every time that you call me bougie, I get so mad. I'm like, I get offended, not like really offended, but I'm always like, I'm not bougie. And I feel like sometimes I've even justified how I'm not bougie. And earlier this week, you called me bougie for, because we were booking like a low cost airline. And I said something like, oh, you have to pay for the seat. And you said, yeah, I know you're bougie. You've never booked a low cost airline. And I got really mad.
Had you ever, to be clear though, had you ever booked a low cost airline?
Not the point. Actually, it is the point. It is the point. Because afterwards I was thinking about it and I was like, why do I get so mad when Roman calls me bougie? What the hell do I care?
Right.
I've got money. I spend it. I don't have children, which means I get to spend my money however I want to spend it. What am I so mad about? And then I started digging into it a little bit and I was thinking about it's actually a big problem for a lot of people, not being offended when their business partner calls them bougie specifically, but the fact that we actually feel really guilty and we feel a lot of shame for wanting nice things. And I think it's a really interesting conversation to have. Like how, and maybe maybe we're going to find a more specific problem along the way, but I really want to have this conversation about how do we remove, why do we feel guilt and shame around wanting nice things or spending our money on nice things? And how do we remove the guilt or the shame? Because there's actually benefit. I'm not saying go crazy and like spend millions and millions of dollars, but there's actually some negative impact to denying yourself the things that you want, even if you can afford them. And there's positive impact to having nice things if that's something you want. So I think it's really interesting.
I'm very interested. This is very exciting. I got a million questions.
And I've got some stuff.
Let's info dump.
Let's do data dump.
Data dump. Thank you.
So there is a lot of it. There is a lot of like reporting of guilt or embarrassment around buying nice things. Sometimes that and it's hard for me to put a price on nice because nice is relative to how, wherever you are. But I think sometimes, buyer's remorse, actually, the whole concept of that is kind of built around the idea that you feel guilty for having bought something that you wanted. Many people experience that. We certainly there's a paradox here, which is at the crux of this issue, which is that most people desire nice things because they are more, take airlines, for example, like why I want to fly in comfort. And if I have status on an airline, that makes it better. Like we want nice things. We want beautiful things. We want things that bring us comfort or ease or joy. But at the same time, we shame ourselves or each other at times. You don't shame me.
No, I like to press buttons.
Yeah. For indulging or being bougie. So let me tell you some of the cultural narrative around it, and then I'll talk a little bit about the negative impact. But one thing that either people feel or others will say about them is that they're being shallow. Like immediately, if you want nice things, you're shallow. You only care about aesthetics or luxury or comfort. This second one I find really, really interesting. And honestly, there are so many threads to pull here, but people feel like they are betraying their values when they want something nice or expensive. So, like if you're, we put a lot of stock or stake in like being able to tough it out or being able to like being down to earth. And for some reason, our culture has a really hard time with the idea of the concept that two things can be true. Like another example of betraying values is for some reason, we can't care about things going on in the world and at the same time also want to buy a $500 jacket. Like both things for some reason in our cultures, it's like they both can't be true, but they can. And so for some reason, we see other people wanting, buying, purchasing nice things, and we make these assumptions that they're selfish, they're shallow, their values are out of whack. And certainly there's an overconsumption problem that we have as a society, but in general, that's we also value like pragmatism and practicality and like, but then also we value status. It's a very complex kind of cultural structure. And then financial irresponsibility is part of the shame, right? Like you should just be focusing only on needs, not wants. And I think we would all agree that's just not really realistic in terms of how you should live your life. Having both needs and wants fulfilled is the ideal state. And then let me just tell you a little bit about like the negative impact, and then I can pause. I have a lot of stuff on I have some really interesting historical context, like all the way back to like the 1600s of how we got to where we are with sort of the cultural narrative, but I'll put a pin in that for a second. So having like a joy deficit in your life is not a good thing. Like you have to have the things that you want. Being happy is important. There's less room for self-expression. Like these are all admittedly a little bit fluffy in terms of both the problem and the impact, but it's very true to life. You have resentment. A lot of resentment starts to build up when you deny yourself like the things that you want, whether that's towards yourself or towards other people. There's actually something really interesting that begins to happen around like a cultural flatness. If we collectively reject sort of beauty or luxury or nice things as unnecessary, then we start to lean into pure utility as a society, and you lose artistry, you lose richness. Like there's a lot of richness to, it's not like expensive versus cheap is not necessarily what I'm talking about.
I could spin that off into a separate conversation because I think there's also, do you want me to interject for a second?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done.
Okay,
yeah, go for it.
Because like, for example, that last bit, I'll give you an example in my world of like a similar thing that I think you're talking about, which is like when I was going to go camping up in, like when I went up camping on my last big camping trip up last summer, I needed a new rain jacket, right? And I could get a really good rain jacket that's going to fit the bill, or I could get like an Arc'teryx one that's 3 times the price, that's built for literally like going up into, glaciers.
Yeah.
That I definitely don't need for the type of camping I'm going to do.
But you want it.
You know what I mean? But so like, again, all a long way to saying like even utility can become
that's
a
true.
flex.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? It's not necessarily beauty.
100%. Why are there so many pickup trucks in that?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's,
you know
that's a good point. Yeah.
But wait, can I ask I have one question. Literally, I think I was tracking until the last words you said. Because the conversation to me was about, you introduced it talking about like the subject, whether it's removing it, whatever it is, the guilt that people feel when they go, and you said, buy nice things.
Yeah.
But then at the end, you said, it's not about expensive or cheap. So then define nice things.
No. It is. Sorry, that was confusing. I meant specifically in like the utility versus.
That's what you pay the extra money for.
Yeah.
I like that.
Totally. But then at the end, like,
I was referring to the utility
money, right?
versus luxury thing, but that was a separate point. Yes. So spending money on nice things. Again, nice can be relative. I'm not going to say nice is $500 plus. Yeah. But like
more than you should versus what's responsible.
But that's an interesting bit of language because should implies that you like what's really interesting is there's two buckets, right? There's spending maybe above your means for something you really, really want. Mm-hmm. And then you could have guilt around that. And then there are people who can totally afford whatever it is that they're buying, but they feel guilty or shame around doing it because you're not supposed to want nice things. Like,
it's a complicated question.
Oh God, so many things.
I know I have a lot.
So I want to go back to what you said around, I think you talked about joy deficit.
Yeah.
And we talked about it in the past. There's been multiple studies linking or actually delinking money and happiness.
Yes.
And therefore, that contradicts the joy deficit point. The studies say, and obviously, based on the format of this conversation, I don't have my research, but basically say that over a certain dollar amount that evolves every year because of inflation.
Yeah. It used to be $75,000.
Yeah, that's gone up.
Yeah.
But above a certain dollar amount, you will not be happier.
Yes.
Right?
But that
adjusted for like dependence, whatever. But
I heard a different version of that.
There is a dollar amount.
Yeah.
That is like shown in studies that it's not going to make you happier. And that's the antithesis to the joy deficit that you would get for not buying something.
I've heard a different version of even that research. The one I heard was that basically after a certain number, the amount to get to any more happiness like basically doubles. So it becomes like an exponential curve.
We can argue again, research we don't have, but I can guarantee you there is a dollar amount associated to happiness.
I think there's, I don't know, I might be splitting teeny tiny hairs here, but when I think about that study, they're talking about like totality, like happiness
I know
in life.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that there are things that bring you moments of joy. And
I
that's
agree.
like, it's slightly different to me where it's like, if I want to buy a jacket that's $300, I'm not saying that's my life happiness.
Yeah.
But like, it brings me joy and I wear it.
But so therefore you're talking about dopamine. You're talking about increasing,
in a way, totally.
How do we feel okay about whatever ways we have to increase dopamine hits?
And if you like buying nice things then, or having nice things or experiencing nice things, like, I think I even think about this when I go on vacation and most times when I'll travel, like I want to do a really nice dinner somewhere. And I always feel so awkward when people are like, how was your trip? What did you do? Like, cause I always feel so judged by those. Totally.
But that's interesting. That's different. That's a different, cause that's not personal. That's not buyer's remorse. That's how other people are reacting to you. That's making you feel bad.
I set that up as like
culturally people judging for.
But that's also people who could be jealous, projecting frustration.
I know, but that's worth talking about.
But also culturally, America allows for that. It's so. We talked about it before. Again, like it's so different everywhere else.
It's so different
everywhere else. Like
I tried to look into some of the cultural nuances because I feel like that question comes up
always.
A lot.
That's my role in this conversation always, and it's massive. You're not allowed to make money in France culturally. You will be rejected by society if you are really successful at what you do and make a lot of money, and you need to find a way to hide it. No signs of ostentatious signs, right? Like no, not allowed.
Yeah.
You get to the US, and I'm not even just talking about like the Miamis and LAs. You get to New York.
Yeah.
You go to Chicago.
Totally. Yeah.
Like money's everywhere. Money is like screaming at you.
I read something interesting in prepping for this, which was I never thought about this before, but you guys remember like when quiet luxury,
totally.
Even when it first started, and really I remember the first time seeing it was like Mark Zuckerberg. Right? Like he's this billionaire dude, but he's wearing just like jeans and a t-shirt. And everybody was like, oh, quiet luxury. And he's probably not the right example, but the research, one of the things I saw this article that was like, did quiet luxury become a thing because everybody decided that they didn't need to be ostentatious and that was like real wealth? Or did it become a thing because nobody wanted to be like ostracized for their wealth? And actually it was because of the guilt and shame that we put around buying, having, wanting nice things.
I remember we had that conversation once in our past lives with like a bigger room. And it was early on in a quiet luxury thing. And I was like, so what is quiet luxury?
Yeah.
And then people describe it. And I'm like, that's called luxury.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is in France. If you show up with like a massive like
fur coat that says Gucci across the front,
you're like nouveau
it's
riche.
over.
You are not.
It's
You
gauche.
do not understand.
Yeah.
It's very gauche. So that's why, like, going back to your great subject, I'm surprised because to me it's inexistent in America in my eyes, given where I grew up. You see what I mean? It's like
there's a lot of like layers to unwrap. And this is the thing with something like this, which is like America is a good example of the way you perceive it is like, well, why should anyone feel this way? But can I give you a flip side to it, which is that in a country that celebrates wealth and says it's okay to be wealthy here, if you buy something and realize it didn't in fact make you feel that much better, you'll probably feel pretty guilty and shamed about it. So it could have the inverse effect of what you're talking about, which is like all of the showy kind of like, you want this and you can be this here. And then when you buy it for yourself, you go like, oh, it didn't do it for me. Could actually contribute to it a little bit.
I think that's I have no idea, but in my mind, that's a very small percentage of the example in which people experience guilt. Because
like buyer's remorse?
Well, buyer's remorse does not necessarily mean that you regret it because it wasn't worth it. A lot of time buyer's remorse happens immediately. Like you walk out of the store.
Sucks.
No, that's not what it is.
And then, but sometimes it didn't feel as good as I thought it would feel.
No. That's most of the time buyer's remorse is like, I'm like, I really want this thing. Let's say it's like a jacket.
Sure.
And it's $500 and I'm like, oh, I really, really want it. Okay, fine. I'm going to do it. I purchase it. I have the bag. You have that moment of like, woohoo. You walk out the door and you're like, oh my God, I should not have done that. I have like major buyer's remorse. Like I shouldn't have spent that money.
So it's about the money. It's not about the object.
Sometimes the buyer's remorse it's not tied to the object being a bad choice or a failure or it didn't do what it was supposed to do. It's literally tied to inner guilt.
When I say it didn't do what it was supposed to do, what I mean, I'll give you a perfect example in my life, which is like there's been a few times I've had buyer's remorse where I've realized, oh, those things don't do it for me. Like I've bought myself a nice watch and then I like, after having a nice watch, I was like, you know what? It really doesn't affect me. And so it was like, oh, I'm not going to buy this anymore.
But what you were talking about, Jesse, isn't about the judgment of others. It's about personal guilt about spending a certain amount of money.
And
right?
I think I set it up at the beginning. The shame and guilt around wanting nice things is both internal and external.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's how others perceive you. And then you feel weird about that. It's sometimes how you perceive yourself. I think when I reflected on why do I get so mad when you call me bougie? I'm like, I think because so much of how I perceive my own identity is wrapped up in growing up in a town of 356 people. I consider myself like super down to earth, very go with the, like, I don't consider myself like, what's the word? Like, I don't consider myself like super high maintenance. So like when you say bougie, I'm like, that's not me. Like that's not my identity.
You grew up in Pawnee. You're not from Eagleton.
Yeah. And then I'm like, wait, but like, have I ever booked a budget airline before? I mean, yeah, maybe like I flew like Spirit Air back in college once or twice, but
back in college.
But it's interesting because and it's not just me,
well, to
right?
yours, I mean, yours is quite specific, which is he's poking holes in your identity.
Yeah, Roman.
You know what I mean?
I know what I'm doing.
No, okay, but let's not. My example is it's specific to me, but it is part of the problem. Is that the paradox? I think I set it up at the beginning.
No, I get it.
As a
I
paradox,
totally agree with it too.
That people want nice things, but they either see themselves or others see them as shallow or misaligned to their values if you buy them. Or I'll go back to my other example because I think it's really interesting that our culture struggles with two things being true at the same time. We are a culture that very much wants to create lanes for people, how we define ourselves, how we describe our relationship with things. So like you're either down to earth or you're not. You're either this or you're that.
Yeah.
You either if you really cared about what's going on in the world, you'd put your money, you donate your money and it's like, but both can be true. I can care about what's happening and I can want expensive, nice stuff.
I'm glad you brought this up because this was something I wanted to go back to too when you were talking about it, which is like, do you not think to some degree right now in the world, we like, this is a bit of a time and a place thing too, which is like, we're in such a moment of absolutism. It just feels like it just like everything you're talking about. It's like everything needs to say something and what side are you taking and this, that, and the other thing. And I just don't, and I might be like rose colored nostalgia, but like, I don't feel like that was necessarily the same way even
That's
10
what I was
years
going to
ago.
challenge. Keep talking about why it was different before.
I just think that right now, and like part of me, like when you mentioned the quiet luxury thing, there was a part of me that, and correct me if I'm wrong, like this came up during that time when I think it was Trump's first sort of time in power, was it not?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I think,
Right.
2016
And like, and it was like a time that like, it was kind of anti-elitist
wealth. It was when everybody started talking about the 1% versus the 99%.
And so like there was this lot of like this real backlash towards wealth itself. And it was like, you're either them or you're us.
Yeah.
And so, okay.
Oh, and my favorite statement during that time, the eat the rich. Remember?
Right.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
That started like 500 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what
I mean. Like all of the, like the casticization of society started like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Yes.
I don't think it's new. I don't disagree with the point, but I don't think it's new. I think like new. what you dubbed the absolutism or like the whatever it was has always existed.
See, I think
it's part of human
it comes
nature.
up in. I think there's times in culture it's more prevalent and people are talking about it and thinking about it and realizing it, and then there's other times when things are a little more hunky-dory and everyone else isn't thinking about it the same way. And I think like, especially right now, it just feels like it's a little more in polarized moments. People notice it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there may be nuances, but it's an inherent part of how like the world grew. Like French Revolution, eat the rich.
Yeah, that's
1789.
true. That's true.
Like, and you see what I mean? Like it's, and I'm sure like if I were a better historian, I could probably find like 15 examples.
I'm not arguing
that either.
Speaking of history, do you guys want a little history tour of
yes, you mentioned that in your data dump.
I really enjoyed this part of my research. So it's interesting. I'm really taking us on just a winding journey here. Like I said, I don't know if we'll crack this, but I was curious, like how our relationship with, call it luxury goods or nice things, like how our relationship with things like that evolved over time and where did the shame come from? So if you think back to like, I told you we were going back to the 1600s, like 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, sort of like Puritan Protestant work ethic. It was very like early American, maybe Northern European culture was like very simplicity, virtue, hard work. Luxury was basically morally corrupt. Like it was a sin. It was decadence. Like it was if you wanted more than enough, it was completely associated with decadence and sin. Yeah.
That's literally. Did you ever? That's literally how luxury watches started.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because you were allowed to do beautiful things if they served a purpose.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it's also where like the people in power were keeping everything for themselves.
Yeah, totally. And it was like, we used the church basically to be like, bad people, you shouldn't have nice things, but we'll have nice things behind these closed doors.
Exactly.
And then
don't look over here. Shut up. Pass me the wine. Shut up.
And then we hit like industrial age consumerism. And interestingly, at that point, then obviously mass production started to make luxury-like goods. Using the word luxury in this conversation is it's the easiest shorthand, but it's like, cool. What do I mean?
Yeah.
but they became more accessible for the first time, even to like the middle class. I know we think about like access and accessibility being really a term of the last couple decades, but 1800s, 1900s, you had things became much more mass produced, more accessible. And that's really the beginning. I mean, class creation, dawn of time, like you said, that's like sociology, but owning nice things became more tied to class aspiration around this time period. Like we started to see like middle class, upper middle aspiring to like class mobility. Yeah. But also it sparked a lot of anxiety around like showing off or going above your station, and things got weird. Things got weird in the class war. And right. And then you enter sort of like the prosperity, like the 50s, 70s, like post World War II prosperity. And this is really where like the American dream was first sort of dubbed. And then owning things actually became an act of patriotism, like owning a car, a house, home, like
in the American dream.
It was the American dream, but it was not just this, like you've made it, this emotional thing. It was almost patriotic to own nice things and to aspire to have those things. But we should talk about this a little bit more, so park it. But that type of consumption at that time also got very gendered. And it was very interesting because if women were leaning into this of like owning things and having consumer goods, they were seen as frivolous, whereas men were seen as practical investors. Ambitious. Owning a watch is an investment. Cadillac. Owning a car is an investment. Yeah. And like if a woman, I mean, now today it's really interesting when people talk about things like buying a Birkin bag, for example, they actually talk about it as an investment, and it is theoretically a very good investment. But then absolutely not. It was just pure frivolous, like women are frivolous, men are smart. Interesting.
I mean, there's other examples down that path about men and women and what men were allowed to do that was decorated, and women that was like men.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, and then we kind of get into like the late 90s up until today, and you've got like, I mean, we've been all over the map between minimalism, maximalism, experience over things. I mean, this is like one of my most hated insights, but also one of my favorite things to talk about, because when people say that millennials wanted experiences over things, that is like fundamentally not exactly what happened. Yeah. It is like most millennials came out of college in the recession, couldn't get jobs, or had to start like entry-level jobs that were paying them way less than they expected to make. So they're like, I don't have money. So what else? What I'm going to do is have experiences.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, you're spending a lot on avocado toast. And it's like, crazy. Dude, I was never going to afford the mortgage.
Crazy.
Like
crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reaction against this sort of like mass consumerism, you got the like minimalist movements like Marie Kondo and the FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early. That was all about like, to your point of don't buy avocado toast. And then you had the experience over things. So all to say, like the relationship with nice things has been very tangled up in like morality, in class, like wars, in sort of the current culture around
it's
the
weird.
Evolved American dream. So it's again, like I said, I was going to take you on a winding journey, but I think that I found the historical exploration to be very interesting.
It's fantastic. And there lies the answer. Like
we can't solve it.
You can't solve it.
Okay.
So let's not solve it. Let's keep talking.
Yeah.
No. Because I think there's a couple of things that lead me to you can't solve it. The whole great historical journey you took us on. So it's rooted in much deeper than just like a societal trend.
Yeah.
B, the fact that we touched on very quickly, that it's as much what like you think others will think as it is what you will think of yourself.
Yeah, internal,
so it is
external.
Personal.
Yeah.
It is personal. It is like, so you could say, okay, one way we're going to solve this, and we're going to tie this to a health benefit, and explain how a certain volume of dopamine hits in your week are important.
No one would care.
And blah, blah, blah. But that's personal.
Yeah.
Like I don't get a dopamine hit from buying a pair of shoes. But I do get it from actually going on vacation with like, that's why I want to challenge your disbelief in experiences over things, because I personally think experiences, I will never remember
it's not
what I wore at a moment, but I will remember the moment.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's just when everybody said millennials don't care about money, they care about experiences. I was like, that's not true.
Wild misunderstanding of the situation.
Exactly. But experiences, absolutely.
And I think the experiences over things is a misunderstood conversation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But you could apply the same thinking to it, right? Which is experiences cost money. And if someone spends way too much on an experience and then regrets it, there's something there. You talked about an experience that you literally feel shitty about, which is you go and have a lovely dinner. And then when you tell people, you get a response that kind of bums you out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not immune to this sort of thing as well, which is interesting.
No, totally. But it's personal.
Yeah.
The thing, I mean, like, you guys know me, I always bring it to like business. And like the thing about me with this is it's just interesting to think about companies and brands specifically that are good at either overcoming this or reframing the conversation around it. Because like, I mean, we live in LA, car culture is real. And I will tell you, I see people all the time who I'm like, ooh, how do you afford that car? You know what I mean? Like,
and that goes back to the relationship to money.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is like, I mean, like some brands have gotten really good at finding ways to go like either A, and I don't know what the answer is, either A, not letting you feel the regret, maybe perhaps you sometimes is warranted to feel, or B, helping you overcome that feeling of regret or something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about the luxury industry for a minute. And I'm feeling like a real dum-dum for not having actually dug into sort of the performance of the luxury industry. I mean, I've anecdotally read over the last couple of years, it's been struggling. I think it's interesting because I don't think that that's specifically tied to people not wanting nice things. I think it's more tied to the evolution of what is luxury. And it's more, I think, but anyway, I don't know. I'm sure you guys have read stuff too, but it's like, does the luxury industry need to worry about this? Do we not care because people, even though people will have guilt, they'll still do it. They'll just do it in quiet, or there's always going to be a group of people that don't care about the guilt and the shame that comes with wanting nice things.
I mean, honestly, great luxury brands, something beyond, sell something way bigger than a nice thing. You know what I mean? Like Rolex will tell you to this day, like our watches are not modern technology.
Totally.
Like they're an antiquated, but what they're selling status.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And like, what is the price you're willing to pay on status? What is the price you're willing to pay on things like that? And I think that's always been the magic of luxury now.
And that is a core like sociological driver of like cultural capital.
Totally.
Is a core part of being human and essentially having, well, this is slightly different than just wanting nice things, but having taste is actually a form of social power.
Totally.
And one of the interesting things is the idea of like when you want to buy nice things, there also comes this pressure of wanting to buy the right nice thing. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing, I always find it so funny how many people talk shit about like, oh, Coach is like the luxury brand for newbies or like stuff like that. And you're like, wait, but like somebody really wanted that Coach. Yeah. But like, why do we have so much judgment about so many things? But it's like, even there's a layer there where just wanting nice thing isn't enough. You have to know the right nice thing to buy to earn the right cultural capital. Anyway, it's a little bit of a tangent.
That gets really tribal and that gets really
it's interesting.
Luxury in one place is not luxury in another. God knows, like, you get to certain levels and they're talking about brands and experiences that I haven't even heard of. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like everyone's playing and the funny thing I always find about stuff like this is essentially is like, we talked about it on a previous podcast, is like there's such a keeping up with the Joneses element to it. And the Joneses are generally speaking people in your neighborhood. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like there are people on this planet that would be like, look at your life and be like, you are the richest person in the world. This is insane. There's people on this planet who would look at your life, look at your bank statement and jump out a window if they had your life. You know what I mean? Like, it's like everything is relative.
Totally.
And in this conversation too, I think guilt is like you said it earlier, which is just like, how can you flash that little bit extra among the people that you kind of associate with 90% of your life?
Yeah. It's, and that like, there's, I didn't want to go too deep. It's like way too much research to truly understand the nuances, but I looked a little bit around like the class structure. Because what you're talking about with the keeping up with the Joneses is really like a core middle class anxiety, is feeling like you want that upward mobility or you at least are trying to compete like within your class structure. And then when you get into like upper class and elite, you end up with the paradox around quiet luxury versus loud. And you kind of touched on it. I forget what people call it, but there's that like, when somebody has money versus money, because the people with money are going to have the logos like everywhere. And the people with like money are much more less talks, you said ostentatious.
Money talks, wealth whispers.
Oh yeah. That's
the way that's the saying.
I have heard that. Can't credit you with that one.
Nope, that's not
but
me.
It was a good one. It's a good banger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, guys, how do I not feel bad about being bougie is what this.
But it's just then if the problem is like, how do we help you? We can talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Because it's a personal thing. I do think what you said about Simon about it's the reason you feel offended it's because it's a dig at your identity. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because you see yourself, and you probably are. There's no judgment at all. But it's like growing up in the woods, hippie, weed smoking teen, and then suddenly you get to afford things you probably didn't anticipate you could afford or would go and afford, or I don't know. But there's a delta between how you see yourself and the life you live.
Totally.
Yeah.
And these probably actually coexist. You're still the person you were and live
Both
a life that's slightly different from the one you had when you were a teenager.
I think also you've touched on this a couple times, Roman, but I think if you really did want to fix this, there's the identity part of it. And then I think it also is wrapped up in fixing people's relationship with money.
Yeah, I think so.
And you said that before, but it's interesting because when you say bougie, I hear like high maintenance and frivolous. And I'm like, that's not me at all. And it's like, it's not the same thing though. And I think that people have many people have a
You're going to raw dog it on Spirit Airlines for your next vacation.
I'm absolutely not. Listen, there is a lot you can do with your money when you don't have children. It's so great. And kids are great, but
You don't think that. I
tried to say it with a straight face.
Kids are great.
Kids are great, but dogs are cheaper.
Yeah, you know what though? My first class ticket to wherever is cheaper than kids.
For sure.
Way cheaper.
Sure it
that's
is.
That's my campaign.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, maybe you're bougie for having children.
I mean, we could take it there. Yeah.
We don't need to go there. Last time we talked too much about kids, I tried to send everybody to a magic camp. Remember that? Yeah. And you shut it down.
Wait, let me ask the socialist question. And granted, I'm here in LA and blah, 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 and whatever. I don't need to caveat all of that. Like, don't we have too much? Don't we have too many things? Aren't we reaching a period of like over consumerism that's getting useless?
Oh, and 100%. I also think we're getting to the point where
is buying something additional really going to make us happier? Like, you see what I mean? Like, why? Like, why? You said there was nothing to crack, so I'm going like, let's talk philosophy for a second.
I mean, why is the sky blue?
Because of what we were just been talking about. You want a little bit of joy in your life. You know what I mean?
But like, is it bringing you joy in your life?
I think I'll tell you this, which is like, talking about buying stuff is such a generalist way of talking about it that it's way a lot more nuanced than that. And like, for example, like when I find a pair of shoes I like and I'm paying an extra $20 than I think I should for them, there's a different experience to that than if I'm like spending $200 more on them than I think I should. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, it's knowing again, what's going to be that thing that gives you that right amount of joy for a number that you're not going to barf in your mouth for spending. You know what I mean? And I think when you find things like that and you have a relationship with money where it is bringing you joy, but you're not like fiscally irresponsible, I think then you can get joy from it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
No, that wasn't my question.
Are you saying you shouldn't, what is there left to buy? Because I was just trying to make a rebuttal for why there is stuff left to buy.
Okay.
I also want to caveat, I think I am the most financially conservative of the three of us when it comes to like my relationship with money. I'm not saying what I buy. Really?
I know what you mean. You're more debt averse.
100%.
Yeah, you're more debt averse. There's things that definitely you are like very conscious of.
Yes.
However, with your free money,
whatever happens.
What happens in Vegas? Yeah. What happens in Jesse's wallet stays in Jesse's wallet.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I do agree with you, Roman, that like I can't deny overconsumption, right? I mean, and I guess could everybody just decide to be far more virtuous with their money and that is fulfilling? Yes. But I think people will still want to find the balance of doing good things with their money and also, buying things.
Do you think it's human nature to be virtuous with money? That's I kind of agree.
I don't think
totally
so.
Not.
You know what I mean? Because like it's like the problem I think I have with the thing you mentioned, not the problem with you bringing it up or anything like that, but the actual point itself is like, it's like, I don't know if that's in our nature. I don't know if it's.
I'll go back to I'll give you another thing. Like when we did the episode on retail, towards the end, we started to talk about rummaging and discovery, and typically that's associated with like thrifting.
Yeah.
But actually, and like again, this is so hard to crack, not only because it's so rooted in history and culture, but also because it's highly individual and specific to each person. But I think that there's something about discovering one-off nice things that, to your point about, do you still get joy from it? It's not like swiping the credit card over and over and over is the ultimate joy, but like if I find that cool jacket that is one of a kind and no one else has, and I found it somewhere random and it's $600,
do you shop on Depop?
No,
I love it. Like I don't buy lots of stuff on it, but I like surf it a lot for that reason, which is like, it's kind of like
bad news for me.
It's kind of like rummaging without having to go to like, it's rummaging without knowing where the good spots are.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because that's such a big part of rummaging. And like I bought like, band shirts on it and stuff like that I found out of nowhere. And like, it is like,
that's cool.
There is joy in discovering that stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's, I just wanted to talk about it really because you called me bougie earlier this week and I got really upset. And then I was like, why am I so sad? It's great. You work hard, do what you want with your money. But
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I wish you'd started this by going, today we're going to talk about why I feel bad about Roman calling me bougie.
Yeah, we can go edit that in.
Should we call that the title?
Yeah, I think
How
so.
do we make Jesse feel better about Roman calling her bougie?
We should definitely try that.
This is really this is just a group like therapy session.
By the way, going back to the luxury conversation, when you look at where it was 20 years ago and where it is today.
Oh yeah.
It's from a business standpoint, right? Remove anything ethics or societal or sociological about it. From a business standpoint, it is outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
The luxury market.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Luxury really was reserved for the elite few and is now really, really part of pop culture.
Yeah.
You would never see a rapper wear like a Like, do you know like Van Cleef & Arpels, the Richemont brand, like, which is one of the, like, it's called like high luxury, like haute joaillerie. It's like on the neck and wrists of like hip hop and rap culture.
Hot take. I don't like it.
And it's fantastic that this is from just a brand evolution standpoint. Yeah. It's phenomenal. And I mean, I love Richemont. I think they did great things. I'm not going to give them a lot of credit for that. I think it's just like, you know, cool people actually starting to wear it versus like them strategizing how to get on the wrists of cool people. But it is the evolution of that industry is outstanding. Like, I think you said luxury is not doing good. Those headlines are there every year, and then look at the numbers.
I know, it's so interesting.
Look at the numbers. Yeah. And maybe there was a dip in like overall like personal luxury goods market in 2024 or something. Yeah. Maybe there was something like that. Yeah. But just look at like 5-year, 10-year trends.
Insane.
It is insane. Yeah. And then there's some market evolution. It was like the boom in China, like in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Then the US made a huge comeback. I actually think since COVID, the US have made like a massive comeback. But so the evolution of that to me is kind of contradicting that point. That it kind of is that people feel bad about.
Jesse, you're wrong.
No, but you see what I mean. It's like
it's interesting.
I think in the US and globally to some extent, it's become actually more acceptable or more accepted to just like, fuck it, I'm gonna spend that money. Yeah, you see what I mean.
I also think both things can be true, as we said. Totally. Whereas like, you're saying one thing, but your behavior doesn't actually reflect what you're saying. Because I do think people want to almost virtue signal that they don't care about nice things. Because go back to what I said.
That's a power move. That's a flex.
But hold on. People feel guilt because they think it makes them shallow. And so they'll talk about like, oh yeah, I don't really care. Like, you know, I don't really need like designer. I don't need this. But they spend their money on nice things. Yeah. So there's a little bit of but that's what I mean about the guilt and the shame. One of the other behaviors I think is really interesting is how much people will justify. So it'll be like, so if someone's like, oh wow, that chair in your house is gorgeous. And you're like, yeah, well, we weren't going to spend that much. But then we decided to have one statement piece and like, but the couch was on sale and it was like, I just said the chair was pretty.
I think love it. Exactly. I think honestly, like a lot of this comes back to the personal problem that you had with him calling him bougie, which is that two things can be true at once. Yeah. And two things can be true at once. And like people, to you, the very first thing you said, it was like people want nice things. They also don't want to be considered a person who wants nice things because it means they're a shallow person. Yeah. Because it means all of this. Because it's like, you want this thing, but you don't want it to be so much of your identity that people go, all they care about are nice things. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I bought this, I don't know, Louis Vuitton thing, but I can still like change my own oil. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's like fundamentally at the core of every human being. Yeah. The kind of complexity that is driving all of us is like this need to show and badge ourselves as important and awesome and worthy of luxury things, but also be functional and in some way grounded and rooted in truth.
I think it's also we've talked about this in other episodes, and it's always an interesting lane to explore, which is how pop culture has reflected or exacerbated this in a way that makes us like lose the plot a little bit. Like if I think about like movies, for example, it's always the really wealthy person that's sort of the villain, you know, and then you've got like the underdog is like, so I think it's interesting when you start to think about the way entertainment or even look at like reality TV, right? I mean, that's all like the Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Real Housewives, that's all like wealth, nice things. And it's sort of it created a divide of like underdog and villain that I think is really interesting, that then makes kind of everyday people be like, well, I don't want to like, how do we change our association? Well, that's everything we're talking about, right? Is basically somehow rearranging in our brains the associations around wanting nice things, whether it's from an identity perspective, a personal perspective, a behavioral perspective. And I think pop culture plays a very interesting role in influencing
do you not
this
go
problem.
ahead, Roman?
But
Sorry.
the pop culture thing, which I totally agree with, is it's kind of a little bit back to Eat the Rich. It's kind of a little bit back to, in general culture, you portray
Totally
wealth as bad. Right. And that goes back to hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
I don't think that's necessarily the case, though. I think that was the thing I was going to talk about.
Go for it.
Well, I mean, like hip hop culture, they celebrate nice things. Like it is absolutely a celebration of
that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
there are cultures that are like, this is awesome. I can afford this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's true.
That's very true.
I had like a thought, like neither here nor there, but I'll just say that anecdote.
Welcome to this episode.
Because that line like stuck with me. I was like in Miami, whenever it was, I think in April or something, for work, and I caught up with a friend of a friend who's a brilliant dude I admire. Is like I'm slowly getting to know him. Like former lawyer, did really well, then went in business, did amazing in consulting, started a company, did amazing. And I caught up with him, and we're there in Miami just having like literally just a soda water and drinking in a lovely place. And we start talking about life things, and he starts telling me a bit about his journey and his career. And at some point he drops, I mean, yeah, I like nice things. And it was just a normal conversation.
Yeah.
There was nothing pretentious about anything he said in that conversation. And that thing stuck with me because no one ever says that.
Yeah.
Like no one ever does.
Just openly admits it.
I like nice things.
With
Literally.
no caveat.
No, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like nice things. That's all he said. And it wasn't a justification. It wasn't a life goal or a pursuit. It was just like that's the life I live.
Yeah.
And that's the life I chose to live.
I've succeeded at being able to accomplish.
And that was what I wanted to do. And I'm here now.
Yeah.
And I'm happy. And that's it. And it didn't mean fuck off if you think otherwise, but if you thought otherwise, then fuck off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what's
Yeah.
an interesting example of that? Like almost the counter, but the same point. That made me think of you. I don't think you did, Simon, but Roman, you watched the latest season of White Lotus.
Yeah.
And you know the infamous line, like I'm going to butcher the actual line, but Parker Posey, they're sitting at like the table having dinner. And she's like, at this point in my life, I just was not meant to like suffer. Like I was just not meant to not have nice things is essentially and people loved that line. And I never thought about it in the context of this. It's almost, it was just her being like, I was not meant to not have nice things at this point in my life. And I'm like, and people, no one was mad at that. People were like, yes, that's me. And there was almost this like embracing of the notion through her, like through the character.
100%.
That I find really interesting now in the context.
It's the exact same thing. And it contradicts what I was saying earlier about, I don't think it's a real thing in the US.
Yeah.
Because people do like get excited when they hear that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, they sort of feel like they're like, yes, exactly.
I'm allowed.
Like I'm allowed to say this now. Like, and I'm going to channel it through Parker Posey's character, but like, yes. Yeah. Like I feel like that was one of the biggest memes from that show.
I mean, there was another one, but yeah.
Well, yeah. There were a couple, but good season.
Simon, get on that train.
I finished the first season.
All right.
Yeah. It's good.
Well, I don't know if the cameras can pick up the holes in my shoes here, but nobody would be questioning my.
Oh no, they're going back to trying to prove that you're just
literally
celebrities are just like us.
Okay, let's talk about that.
I am not.
Let's talk about that.
Celebrity.
That doesn't mean anything. Anything.
These shoes are falling.
This is
apart.
the one thing I fucking love about America. If you travel. I think I talked about this on one of the first episodes, but I'm going to say it on the money one maybe. If you travel in Asia and you're in business class, everybody around you wears a suit. So if you're in the airport and you see people in a suit, most of them travel in business class. And then when you get to the US,
sweatpants,
pajamas,
sweatpants, like 20-year-old Vans with holes in them, pajamas. Maybe there's a gold chain underneath. Who knows? Maybe there's like a Van Cleef like bracelet. Who knows? And maybe there isn't. Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like the fact that people have like holes in their shoes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, you see what I mean? Which I love. Which is
That is
actually,
true.
maybe
That is
like a
true.
new form of I like nice things. Just
Yeah.
the way I want to like my nice things.
And I just like, but I also like these shoes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm emotionally attached to my Vans
Okay,
from
that's going to be my
1996.
version of the line. I'm going to say, I like nice things, but I'm also emotionally attached to my Vans.
Yeah, exactly.
What are we supposed to take
so-
away from this conversation?
Can I ask a question
have
before
no
we do that?
idea.
Because wrapping up this one's going to be tough. Let me
haven't
ask you a
taken any
question
notes.
because we got a little personal, which I love. Let me
Yeah.
ask a question before we do that.
Yeah.
Do you, is it easy for you to get rid of things?
Oh, it's my favorite thing in the world to do.
Okay.
So I actually don't like a lot of stuff. I hate having things.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I
like experiences.
I
not
do
things.
like experiences. God damn it. I'm done. I've become my own.
You're like, I hate that insight, but
I hate the concept it was built on, but yeah, I prefer
This is going to be an
experiences.
episode full of memes.
Oh God.
We're going
Oh,
to do a bunch of
man.
memes
Yeah.
on that one.
For sure. No, but I
If you listen to,
actually
like-
have I have a rule that anything I buy, something goes out.
That's
So
great.
I never whatever I bring in, I donate
Okay.
out. So I never have more than what I have because I cannot stand stuff.
I think I know the answer, but what about you, Simon?
I just don't buy a lot of stuff.
But do you have a hard time getting rid of stuff?
No.
Okay.
No. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because I don't think about purging a lot, but I don't have a lot to purge. If that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? So
Totally.
it's like a tough question when you're like, do
Yeah.
you get rid of stuff? I'm like, I don't think maybe I do have a tough time of getting rid of stuff, but it's just because I don't get rid of stuff that often. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I should
Yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah.
have some more stuff.
Yeah.
My wife was like, you need some new clothes. You know what I mean?
Your-
And I'm
your
like,
5 black
maybe
t-shirts
I'm holding
are-
on
yeah.
to my stuff too long
Yeah.
in that respect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
That's
what about
all.
you, Roman?
I think objects I generally don't care about, but there aren't that many objects that you get rid of. I mean, books, sometimes you give them away, you donate, but
Yeah.
you know, clothes, like something I truly just don't like anymore, no problem. But my theory, which I'm old enough to be able to say that it's been proven, is that fashion goes in cycles.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
sometimes
God.
I don't wear something for like 6, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, and then it comes back. And I'm like, oh, I like it again.
Yeah.
Why? Obviously, because I see it on other people
Yes.
or that style.
We're all influenced.
and like,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's
Well,
happened to me
yeah.
to wear things that I literally haven't put on in 10 years.
Going a step further than that, I have like old band shirts from sadly 25 years ago
Fantastic.
that now my daughter wears because she's like, this is like a cool vintage
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is cool.
band
Yeah.
shirt
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh man,
I've
old.
actually thrown things away that I regret having thrown away,
Yeah.
like some old 1997 Air Maxes.
Well, also in this city too, some of that stuff, like a vintage band shirt can be $500.
Yeah,
that's
Like,
insane.
I threw
Have
That's
you
that
ever
insane.
walked down Melrose? I think every store between like La Brea and Fairfax is basically old band t-shirts.
Oh my God.
And you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I literally
exactly.
jog
Yeah.
in an old Iron Maiden shirt that I'm like, I bet I could sell this for $100.
You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Totally.
Should I try to wrap us up? Where are we?
Give it a
we
shoot.
have 2.5 minutes. We can
Okay.
keep shooting
We
the
can
shit
just
if we have
keep,
anything to add. But
keep exploring. Okay, well, do you want to know my personal rule for I'm like one item in, one item out,
Yeah.
and then also I think this should be everybody's rule, but it's definitely the rule I live by. I think every person in a household should get a box, and that is your sentimental box, and like that's it. You cannot like, but it's just like, no, to the point about t-shirts. It's like, you could have 400 t-shirts that you're like, oh, but this was from when I did that one thing back in
Right.
high school. And this, I'm
Yeah.
like, no, you get a box and whatever can fit in that box is that's how I
How
have like,
big's the box?
mine is like this big.
what's in it? For clothes,
So
books,
I
what is
have
it? Pictures?
one letter from each of my grandparents, like a birthday card. Like I kept one.
I would
I
never
don't
ever throw that away.
Yeah, but I don't need every
10.
year.
Okay.
I have one from each. One
Yeah.
from each of my parents. I have one t-shirt or two t-shirts in there that are like, I'm never going to wear them, but they're just
something from high school or something.
Very sentimental. All other t-shirts, like they can go. I don't care. But, and I have other t-shirts that like are sentimental, but they're in there. That's all I can remember. There's other stuff in there, but I haven't opened it in like a couple years.
It's cool. That's a cool concept. I like it.
But it's like, but if you do that, I think it makes you feel better about not holding on to it forces you to weigh the value of all the stuff you own. If you are somebody who struggles with purging things, because it gives you a safe space to this is going to be like where I have memories. But if I have one t-shirt that represents, I don't need 27. And then it helps you anyway.
All right, wrap us up.
This has been super.
Yeah, what do we take from this, Jesse?
Wrap us up, Jesse.
Did we crack it?
Give us all the insights we got from this one.
Oh boy. Well, I think we knew within the first 5 minutes that this was a highly uncrackable.
This is your new topic, right? Like I'm going to bring uncrackable subject.
It is sort of becoming my brand. To bring the topics that just out of the gate I know can't be cracked, but I'm too excited to not talk about them. So, but I think we had a lot of interesting conversation. I think very quickly we realized we talked a lot about the paradox, right? Yeah. And that's both the internal and external component, but also the fact that your identity is so wrapped up in how it's so often conflicted who you are with what you want and how people change and evolve over time. Yeah. So we talked about that being really interesting. We obviously talked about class being a core component since the dawn of time, really. Yeah. And I think you said it, Roman, after I went through the history, it's like, it can't be cracked because this is so wrapped up in historical, sociological, cultural, like generational, you would have to unwind so many things to crack this. I do think it's a topic that I wish more people would reflect on because I just generally think it would be so much better for everybody to carry less guilt and shame in their life across many things, not just wanting nice things. I just brought this topic for fun, but I think there's just a nice opportunity for reflection, self-reflection on this one. What else do we talk about?
I think that's it. Let's go buy some shit.
Wait, aren't you going to ask if we cracked it?
Okay, Simon, did we crack it?
Can I have a hot take?
Okay.
I don't know if we cracked the bigger problem. I think we cracked why what Roman said to you was so upsetting.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Why I get upset.
I agree with Simon. Yeah, I think you cracked that one, Simon. Outside of that, we didn't crack anything, but it was an awesome conversation. It.
Maybe it'll help people think through their own
guilt.
Guilt and process. And don't feel guilty. Have nice things.
All right. Let's go get a beer.
All right. Thank you all. See you next time on another episode of Crack It in an Hour. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Crack It in an Hour. If you like the show, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you have questions, thoughts, or feedback, shoot us an email at hello@crackitpodcast.com or on Instagram @crackitpodcast. Music done by Michael Anastasi, cover art shot by Mick Mint, and all things audio and video taken care of by Nathan Nash. See you next time.